So just a raise of hands, has anyone used the pavements options, the pavement snippets in 12D? That's probably why you're here now. Right, so back in the last version, version 12, we released a bit of an idea. You would have seen some of the pavements. You would have seen a few things like this with pavement options and tri-meshes being created by for your pavement. So they ran in snippets, and you've seen a bit of that snippets before, and we were able to then specify layers, attach one layer to the other and so forth. So a little bit tedious because we had to actually create one layer, attach the next one underneath it, the next one underneath it and so forth. So with the production of, or development of version 12 over the last 2 years, we worked on the process to be able to do the pavement all in one go rather than having to do layer by layer, and being able to change those layers at will. So if anyone's used to using the old boxing, you would have found that fairly tedious and probably daunting. So this makes a big difference to the way you do the pavement. So I wouldn't be, you probably find yourself not doing boxing the old way.
I heard an alarm go off to say that.
Oh, okay.
Just let them come in.
Oh, that's better. We're getting an inferiority complex there for a while. They missed my best joke too. Can you believe that? Had that all prepared.
It's the only one he's got. They must have changed it by 10 minutes or something. Oh, now it's back.
That's better.
How you feeling?
Cool.
Family? Marry, no. Yeah, we need to marry. You know any Marys?
Now it's legal.
M-A-R-Y.
M-A-R.
Idiot. Okay, sorry, I did. No?
Yeah.
I did start before. I didn't realise I was pressing a bell and wasted my best joke, but I will intend to feel like I'm a little bit more mature nowadays. I'm turning 63 tomorrow, and so there won't be any frivolous comments and about Lane Irwin. Okay, I won't make any jokes about him anymore. It'll be seen. We'll have to wait and see what he does. I'm pretty sure he's not as mature as I am. So the pavement you've got, again, people used to using the old boxing, and in version 12 we went to the new tri-mesh. So we developed the tri-mesh stuff over the period to be able to take into account multiple layers, be able to change your boxing, to be able to do curbs and all sorts of batter treatments for not only design but also construction. It dribbled out a bit after the last conference, so we have done some webinars and training courses, but there may be quite a few that haven't used it. So this is a chance. So the pavement is all done in snippets, just like we showed before. Snippets running options, creating commands in your MTF file. A lot of those commands are only just simply intersect, insert absolute, and a shape command to create things. Not many really fancy commands inside these snippets at all. They're really just reproducing the old boxing type commands that you used to do in that external file. So it's called Pavement Manager. So there's different ones for curb, for pavement only, and for batter type treatments. So all of them have similar options. They have like an inner offset, outer offset, values for your pavement, and they are active under the road toolbar. So when you first pick the little pavement option there, it'll come up like this, and it'll put some defaults in for you. So they just say you get something to start with. Okay. So the idea is you're supposed to then specify a pavement style for the particular job that you've got. So a lot of people have pavement details. Fortunately, they seem to have an awful lot of them. So inside this profile, you're supposed to be able to then set up a definition for each pavement that you want. AC surface, aggregate, base, sub-base, cement stabilised, all those sorts of things that you get in those pavement details. So you obviously want a lot of them because everyone seems to have umpteen changes in their drawings about different styles as they go down the road and different zones and areas that this happens over. So inside the pavement manager, it comes up with and as I said, this is probably close to 2 years development. It's all going to be done in 30 minutes. So you can set up your style. So inside these styles here, you have up to 10 styles. Why I picked number 10, I don't know. It's a style. So you probably name those styles maybe for the definition it's working on. Maybe it's a certain area you're working on. Maybe it might be landscaping. It might be something else. So it's just an area that will house all your different pavement styles. And again, you've got up to 10 of them that you can have. In each one of those styles, so I just go and grab one down to here and I go plus button there again, you have 3 different varieties of options that you're going to apply your pavement profile to. So, and they reflect a snippet. So you've got a curb one, you've got a batter one, and pavement only. So you've got 3 of those inside those other 10. So then when you go and grab the one you want, pavement curb, and you go plus here, you then put in a zone. So each one of those curb ones now, you can have 10 zones. So now you've got 10 times 3 times 10. So you're able then to go and say, I want a particular zone area. This is going to be a certain pavement type, another pavement type. So you've got quite a lot of ability to be able to have different styles, up to 300 or so inside this one file. A lot of times you might find that they repeat a lot. There might only be some slight change in a bit of pavement depth. It might be just an extra sub-base added on. But you can just create another one and give it a different name. So the same for that, when you add the zone in, and you go down to the plus button here, you can add in layers. So you've got 10 layers in every zone. So you've got quite a few that you have to define. We've had a few people who have come up with more than 10 profiles, but they were also modelling the 7mm tack surface that they put on the road. So you've got to be realistic about it. That's the process. So you can turn around, and it starts off when you first pick the icon. Again, if I just delete that, it'll put some default ones in for you that you can start with. Unfortunately, with this particular editor at the moment, there's no cut and paste as such for the different nodes you've got. We are working on that part of it, but these are all project attributes. So you can, and don't come to me after I tell you this, but under utilities, attributes, that's where they sit. Project attributes, MTF, reference style 1. So you can copy them down, because this editor is a bit of an attribute editor. You can copy them down and put them in there, but all I suggest is if you make sure you change the name, like reference style 1 or 2 to reference style 3. At the moment, it'd be up to you to change the number to 3. So you can't have a double occurrence of these things. But it's generally not too hard to go and add in layers and things like that. So inside the style, you give it some sort of general name. This is the model naming convention. As I said, we've got 2 years and 30 minutes here. So in this particular case here, it's what makes up the models that are produced in the snippet. So you end up with the models called pavement, mesh, road name. Pavement, mesh, strings, road name. So that's the combination of these names gives you the model. You would have noticed that Lee mentioned this morning about model tree. So if you put a / like that, you will then get model tree models. If you don't put that, you don't get it. In version 14, we've made those snippets interacted with that model tree idea. So I put model tree in here, so I get this. So I can turn around and just quickly add all my pavements on for every single road that I've got to a view. Or I can simply drop down to here and say, look, I really only want the pavement for row 1. So that's the ability of having a nice model tree options. So I did it here just to say that it doesn't matter if you don't use it, everything will still work the same way. You put that little slash in, you get model tree. But as Lee said, you can't go back. This is actually the model. It's all user definable. So when I drop down to a pavement curb, I would put some sort of name, pavement type 1, pavement type 2. It's up to you to give it some sort of name. The pavement one for curbs, this is the curb type. It's for the curb layer, the shape. So the idea is you're supposed to do the design on surface on the top. So you'll have the 2 to 4 strings that represent the curb, and then you pick them in the snippet, and then it'll do all the work for you. So the older snippets were all the model names, the depths, the colours, and all that sort of stuff of the layers is all in this file. It's not in the snippet anymore. So the snippet then reads this file. So just quickly, you've got things like colour. You've got depth of the curb. That's the depth from here, from the lip down to the bottom. You've got nice colour, things like that. Offset behind the curb. It's all pretty straightforward. What you're supposed to enter. Then you go into the layer, and you start specifying what layers you've got. So you've got wearing surface, 50 mil what it might be, base layer, layer number 4. You give it different colours and things like that, so they all look nice. There's an inner and outer offset, so you can do things like step this pavement back like that. So you just give an inner offset. So the inner offset's positive away from the string, negative the other way. So you can go that way. You can also step outwards. So you can do all that stepping in the pavement, all in that file. So if you had one that was stepped differently than another one, then you just copy that style and call it a different name. So same for so these all look very, very similar. When you drop down to the pavement only, it doesn't have a curb, okay? So it just has layer after layer. And the same goes for the batter, it just has layer after layer. So that's the pavement manager, and it follows those rules. So it's up to you. So you got up to 10 layers, so it shouldn't be too bad. Right, so you've done the design steps at the top. The advent of layers is what makes all this possible. If that hadn't happened, then you wouldn't be doing any of this. So the fact you can do external layers and have them and not actually affect your design is what makes it all work. So again, just quickly, we're looking at these sorts of modifiers. We're going to a cross-section view, and we've done our design, and then we bring up the one. So the actual names in your library are called try pavement, curb, from attributes. So anything with the from attributes, right, uses the pavement manager. There are a few other ones there that try pavement. They're the older version 11 snippets. They don't access the pavement manager. Only the ones with the from attributes do. I tried to make the names reflect what they were used for. So you've got try pavement curb from attributes. So you expect that it's going to be a curb pavement. So basically, all the questions, all the answers, all the things that you were asked for, like colour, all those depths and stuff, are all taken out of it now. They're all inside the manager, so you don't have to worry about that. The beauty of all that is that you can now change something in the manager outside this MTF file and just go recalc on the recalc panel. And if you've done something sensible, it will then update your job. You don't have to open up the MTF file and find out where that is or anything. You're just changing something in the style, and it should be reflected wherever you use that style. So it asks you quickly for things like this. What's your style? So again, it's reference style 1, and I'm going to use pavement curb. I'm using zone number 1. All right. So again, I just specify those. It's got an option there to say, do you want to use all the characters of the road name in the modelling? So you get pavement mesh RS01, which is a good idea. So I probably should make that mandatory. But you can say none if you want, but then you just end up with mesh pavement everywhere. So it has lots of different choices here. I won't go through all of them, but like it's defaulted to reference string. So obviously that's what it means. You normally go from the reference string outwards, but you can go from a 3D link. So you could be going from a lane line outwards. Okay, so that's what the idea. The start string can be lots of different things. So again, the edge string, or in this case here, it's the curb profiles. Now those names are it's really to do curbs. Okay, so it can be really to do any concrete shape, but it's traditionally for curbs. It's a minimum of 2, maximum of 4. So you can do like edge strips to rollover curb to barrier curb. The names are not with the auto left and right. You have to type in KLL. I agonise with the idea of how many times you type in KL just so you get auto left and right, and then you forget to take the L off and it doesn't work anyway, so I took that out. So if you want to, and you feel that you always have these strings, then you can fill those names in the snippet itself, save it off to your user library, and you can bring it up with the names already filled out. But it doesn't take you long to pick them anyway or type them in. So it'll grab those 4 strings that represent the curb. It'll do an option to go under the curb, so you can either go horizontal, cross-fill value, or a name grade, or just the slope of the road as it is at the moment. So you can go horizontal if you pick name grade. There's a depth override. So in this case here, if I sort of put minus 0.4 on that one and go apply, it actually puts the curb now at 0.4 depth instead of 0.2. I don't know if you noticed then, but that section view automatically recalced. Now, that was a revelation at the distributors conference, and out of all the things we did, that was the best. If I had to go one more time, right mouse button next and pick that little panel, I would have shot somebody. So it automatically recalcs, so it's great. So you can do little demos like this, and if you're lucky enough, it'll work every time. So you'll notice as I run that and I do the override, this is automatically adjusting for me. It actually adjusted for that curb profile to the pavement under that curb. So you never have to worry about that anymore. So if you make this deeper, it will automatically adjust and go under the curb for you. So a lot of that process has been taken away. So the only thing is extra here, this option here, this P1, is optional. So it's just an extra syntax that goes into your model naming. And I'll explain what that's used for in a moment. So if I look at my design, I'm running my profile. So I've got my road design up here. And I come to this area here. If I get rid of, what do I call this thing? Right. Can't beat the old same mouse, can you? So what happens is the snippets, when you go through the intersections, that was quite a tricky part where you had to keep on working out. The curb disappears, you had to have a different profile and all that sort of stuff. And so this snippet, if you use the same snippet for the entire length of the road, if one of those strings, to invert the top or the back, doesn't exist, it'll just do the pavement at the lip of curb for you, automatically. Okay? If the lip of curb's gone, you get no pavement. End of story. It will not give you any errors saying that these strings don't exist or whatever. You just get no pavement, you've done something wrong. And after doing all those snippets and trying to work out all the errors things, you understand why I did that. So basically, that's the process. So when you step through those sections, it automatically adjusts for you. If you use this snippet the entire length of the road, right, it's great. If you start to use the same snippet in different areas, that's where you have to introduce that alias that I showed you. Because otherwise you double up. You're getting double pavements. You've got to have some sort of name that differentiates which one's where. So if you are going to do that, okay, then all you have to do is make sure that here you put an alias in there. So that means you get, this area is P1, next one's P2, P3, and they never get mixed up. Whether it should be mandatory or not, I don't know. But that's the idea of it. So again, if you go into here and you can go into pavement number 1, and go down to your cross-section view. So this is layer 1, layer 2. So I'll go to layer 2, and I'll make that -3. it automatically does that for you. So you don't have to worry too much about those sorts of things. It'll update the section view for you straight away. Right, so besides having the different options, you obviously just specify it left and right on each one of those, is the option to run the curb or other types of paper. So they don't all have curbs. So if I go into here and I pick a cross section, so you've got things like this. So you've got drains and all that sort of stuff. You've got concrete lining. You've got rock batter, just grass batters, whatever it might be, retaining walls. You want to be able to build that up too, but it doesn't have a curb. So that's the pavement only one, okay, which just simply gives you a depth. And it asks you for similar sorts of things. It asks you for strings and things like that. So if we go and have a look at our data on the right-hand side of the road, we've obviously got a few prepared before here. So I'll turn on the concrete channel. Right, so the concrete channel one will do that sort of thing for you. Okay, so it's the same thing. I've specified 100 mil deep, whatever my concrete is, and if I bring up the pavement only, right, it looks very similar to the other one. Just asks you a few different questions. So it asks you for a start link. So again, you can be reference string, and this time it's actually a 3D link. It's actually a design link over here. It's not the reference string. It's just the two strings in my design where that drain is. So the first string is a 3D link. I asked for the same things. It has some cool things. It can actually do this. It can have a different batter slope on the ends. So each of the start link and the end link have a name grade. And Joel touched on the name grade before if you haven't used it. You can specify a slope, an actual value, or two strings. It's just a slope definition, that's all it is. Okay, so instead of having it vertical, I want that to be at an intersection of the two. So I'm able to flare the ends out of any of those pavement onlys. Because that means that when you go and join them all together, you've got the same pavement depth, so I can put on the rock protection. I can turn on the protection over there as well, apply that. So they're just using the same thing, the plywood, just with a different thickness. And it does that for you. So inside the snippet for that one, it has an option to say normal, for the depths to be normal. Okay, so you can do those sorts of things. Most things on the road are vertical. There's not much difference between normal and vertical when you're on a 3% crossfall. But on a 1 in 50 slope, normal can mean quite a bit of difference. So you've got all those features, and again, they're just simple things. So you can get down to a stage of working out, putting in things like grass. I suppose it depends on how finicky you want to get, but we are doing a lot of landscape stuff and getting volumes out and areas, and that all costs money. So you're able to do that. So this is where that slope comes into play. So that bit gets put on top and so forth. So that these pavement only things are like blocks of cheese sort of thing. They can be positioned anywhere. So there are strings created by these, not only the tri-meshes, you get strings as well for every single string on that pavement. So you can attach onto them instead of the design surface. So you've got lots of tools like that. It's not only just always attached to the design. So the general sort of curb is like that. So we go to our section view and we have a look at what I refer to as a rule type road. So this sort of one. And if we add in our pavement. Right, our Multrim makes that easy. Right, so this sort of job is a traditional one that we might have for pavement profiles. So it's pavement batter. So it just asks you the same sort of thing before. It asks you for a start string, whether it's reference, whether it's the 3D link. Has a lot of other options in there too. It also asks you can pick an external string like a cutback string on the road, and it will get its level from the design. So it's a bit like the old boxing where we had those offsets and you had to work out. So the start string can either be at the reference or it can move across your road and follow other strings. So again, you ask for a simple edge string, and you have to define what the batter slope is. And there's different ways of defining what that slope is. So you can either define it by links and just pick a string that's in your design, or you can use a crossfall. If you've got a standard crossfall, it's -50, or you've got a name grade. So whichever way you want to do it, you can specify that slope 3 different ways. So again, it has some good options here where the bottom surface mode here can either be the same as the 2 strings you pick on the top, or you can actually use a name grade. So you can change the bottom surface here from use start end lengths or a different name grade. So it's for things like when you have shoulders that are at 5% and you want to go underneath at 3%. Project the row cross fall across. So you can have 2 different things, you end up with a wedge type shape. So that's what that's for. So being able to run those sorts of things and being able to change the pavement and update it all, and it all works for you. So under the string Inquire, there's a new string Inquire. I think Paul's going to look at it later on. So you can actually define what you see in the string Inquire. It's customisable by you as well. But we have a string Inquire done for pavements mainly. So inside the pavement there, you can see that it tells you information about the pavement you picked. So at least you know what reference style you used and what, otherwise you never know. So it tells you all information about that, their attributes, and later on we show how some of those attributes we use for the BIM export. We don't use all of them, but some of them we do, like the name, the depth, and possibly the reference string that it belongs to. So that's a general sort of run through on that sort of process. Easy type pavements, there's ones for doing cul-de-sacs and curb returns as well. So you can turn around and do your pavement for your cul-de-sac. So if I pick the cul-de-sac one, as I said, we're running out of time, so that's only very quick for you. But modify left, it's called cul-de-sac. It does exactly the same things, asks you for like the curb one, but it asks you for the centre line of the cul-de-sac. So it's a bit like the old curb return function where you pick another string and it works out and it fills in the cul-de-sac for you. So that's what that one's for. Right, so we just dropped to another job. Is this sort of one. So where do I want to go from there? I've got the normal pavement curb one, but all my jobs aren't as easy as that. They're not all subdivision jobs or that sort of thing, and they have widening, they have all sorts of things involved, and that's how it all really started. So if I go to my widening curb job, I've got jobs like that. Okay, so I've got a widening, and I've got some pavement and curb out the side. I'm not doing anything in here. So again, if I go to my section view, I've got this sort of thing. It's exactly the same as the subdivision. The only difference is I picked a different start point. So instead of the reference string, I picked the string that I inserted out here in my design that's latching onto the cutback string for the survey that I picked up, and hung my template off that. So that's exactly how the pavement worked. There's no difference in the one I just showed you. So when you pick this one here, you end up with the left-hand side. You'll notice that in this one here that the pavement's stepped, okay, because I use that offset option in the pavement manager to say I want that one pavement to be offset 500 mil for some particular reason. Normally the tie-ins and that to existing. If I go and pick that, so again, the only difference between this and the other one we had was that instead of picking reference string, I'm picking 3D cut link. Okay, as I said, there are some other type ones there as well, but everything else is exactly the same, and it's producing that cutback for you. So if I have a look at the other side of the road, the right-hand side, it's a different pavement. So you see, it's not stepped. It may not ever happen in a particular job, but you know, it does in this world. So to do that, you have to have 2 different pavement styles because there's an offset value in it. So there's no override for that offset. It may happen in the future, but at this stage here, you'd have to copy it and have that offset, have 2 different pavement types to actually do that. So you bring up the pavement one from there. This was all on the back of users, people asking for stuff, what 12D does. There's a sawtooth cutback for this one. So if I run that, it does that for you. So it's just a saw cut, one vertical in. Now, so it gives you a bit of an idea of extra things you can do inside that snippet. Right, so if I add in, let's see, I've got pavement, what's the name of this one? Model tree? Yeah, that's what I meant. Right, so in this one here, I can do the subgrade. Okay, so it's done a tin surface for that particular subgrade for you. So inside the pavement manager, if you go up to the pavement style you want, you just have to turn around and say, create subgrade surface. So for that particular layer, you can say, I want to create a subgrade strings. You can do every single layer if you really wanted to, but most times people just do the bottom one. But you can do that, and then it'll create the strings for you, and you can then create a surface from that. Now, at the moment, the surface is created under, this is the only time I probably shouldn't do this one, but it was under beta, so it's hopefully going to become overdone by something else. But it basically just means it picks your reference string, asks you for the model, and it creates a tin for you. So it does a lot of the background nulling and that sort of stuff, but we're hoping to get in this version, so when you turn that button on, it automatically does a tin without you having to go and do an extra step. So at the moment it creates the strings, and so we should be able to get that to do the actual tin for you as well. So that's for doing things like widenings and overlays and that sort of stuff. So again, for the typical situation is for rural type roads is this sort of road. So having done all the work, we talked to a lot of construction guys about this. Okay, so what we're able to have here is this type of formation. Okay, so we all thought everyone did this, and apparently they don't do that. So all they do here is they form the surface like that, and they put this Verge material over the top. Okay, so this particular pavement here is a pavement only option, because it has no curb, and it has offsets for the tooth, like the other one I showed. Okay, but there's another snippet here called Verge material, and it goes over the top. So they're to work together. So you've got one that's pavement only, and the Verge material is the infill over the top. So that was the idea of it. So if we, I think that's the right one. So you've got a pavement only and a tri-verge only. So they both reference the same reference style, so you don't even have to open the file to see it. So they're both using reference style 1, zone number 1, and so forth. So you're able to then join those two together, and they link together. So one pavement style changes, both of them change. And they still ask you the same thing, string 1, string 2, it's not that difficult. Right, so the major thing that we want to quickly get onto is this sort of stuff. Okay, intersections where it's easy to do the MTF file, everything runs nice and reasonably parallel. You've got curb returns, possibly you can do all that fine. But then you get to a high entry intersection like that, right, which you cannot do in an MTF file. Right, you can't work the pavement out for that. So what we developed was an option to take a triangulation surface and colour that triangulation surface, and then apply the same pavement profiles that we did for the road, where it was nice and straight, to the tin surface. So all you have to do is be good at creating tins, and I emphasise that. Don't have any little spikes and little long thin triangles and that sort of stuff. Have a good tin. Right, so to run that, you triangulate your tin and give it a colour. So under the design roads pavement, there's a pavement create from tins. It's a function, so I can rerun. Right, so at the moment, it's coloured, Viz road shoulder. So I turn around, I turn that on, and I go process. So it's going to take that triangulated surface and apply the same pavement profile that the other one had, and create the surface for you. Now, that's a lot of work normally. You'd never do that. Okay, so that will turn around, take that profile. So you go and change the profile, use the recalc this, and it will update just like the road did that I showed you before. But it gets a bit better than that. So what if you don't want all that? What if you've got something like this? So if I go run chain on this one, and I go colour existing, what if I've got that? Okay, for some reason they wanted to keep that bit of pavement. I don't know why. But so it's an old roundabout, so they thought it was a good idea. So you know you want a different pavement on that orange area than the grey area. So obviously you turn around and say, okay, I'm going to run this. So if I go process again, it'll turn around now, and it's only telling me it's going to do the Viz road shoulder. So anything that's not Viz road shoulder coloured, right, there's no pavement. You don't even have to null them out. All right, whatever you've got coloured, it will do the pavement. So now if I want to have a different pavement style for the orange area, which has got a bit of maybe a deep lift or something like that over the top of it, because we're using the existing pavement, I can now turn on orange and go process. So it'll now look at the orange colour of the pavement. So if I add in the intersection, where's the little right star, whatever. I'll just scroll down. That's what I'm doing.
Old school.
Old school, yeah. Oh, it's called mesh, that's right. That was you supposed to pick up on that.
Sorry, yeah, mesh.
I'll give you one job, you don't do it. So basically, it'll do that. So that's a different depth pavement compared to the rest of the pavement. So on it goes. So if I then go turn around and I'll give it another go, I'll run the colour islands, right? It then turns around and colours the island yellow. And there's no pavement process at the moment here for yellow. So if I go process, it'll then cookie cut, as Lisa before, a bit like that, where it now takes out the pavement for that. So the idea is then on top of that, besides being able to do the colour pavement, so the construction world has heaps of these things. And they just colour road after road after road, all different polygons and everything. And all they have to do then is apply this profile to the coloured tin. It can also do things like this, where before you had the pavement, already had it turned on. So when you normally do the pavement, it doesn't know about the edges. It only knows about a coloured tin. Okay, so it'd be nice if you had the strings that represented that around the edges, if I could run and apply many like I did inside the MTF file. So all you have to do is do this thing called edge strings on this panel and specify the names of the strings. So that looks very suspiciously like the MTF file, because they're all passed down to the MTF and the whole thing's run in the background. So you can then get it to do all the curves around all the curved strings that are attached to the big area that you just coloured. So that's the idea of the process of doing tins and that sort of stuff. And again, you can do all sorts. It's all limited by what you colour things by. Didn't realise how fast this is going to happen. Right, yeah, so a lot of this developed from the construction people. My apologies for you don't like being referred to as people, but it developed because they basically had the unenviable task of having to set out your job, where all you gave them was the design strings, and they had to go and drawings showing pavement details, and then they had to go and do all those little parallels and all those horrible things that they don't want to talk about. So anyway, we didn't give them anything. So basically, if I go and run this, this is a recreate. Okay, so that was a design, strings that came from you. Okay, the construction surveyor's got those strings, and he needs to create an MTF file from it. It's a catch-22. He can either do it this way, or he can triangulate the job and do that like we did with the intersection. He can colour the tin and do it that way. But this way, he actually gets the MTF file. So if he's savvy with being able to apply a snippet to an MTF file, he's got a redesign straight away, as quick as that. He's still got to do a little bit of work in his strings to make it look a bit better, so they do join together and they've got proper names. But you can use this option too. So if you get designs from somebody else and you've got no MTF file or anything to go with it, you can just do a recreate, and it recreates that entire job again. So it basically just takes the data, makes a copy of the data I just picked. So you end up with models called construction strings, construction sections, and construction data. They're not user definable. So you get that model in the background. So there is a recalc. So if the job does change, you can rerun this again, and it updates the job. So inside this job here, you still do the same things that I showed you before. It's your design now, so you don't have to do those sorts of things. Just quickly what it does, there's the MTF file. So it creates a snippet of every single string in the job and gives every single one a unique name, and that's how the insert absolute works. So for things like highways, those sorts of things. So inside this one here, if you edit the data for this, the function, sorry. That's the pavement one. And hey presto, in here's the edge strings. So it will do the same thing. It'll do all those batters and all sorts of stuff for you by you doing the big pavement in the middle and just doing the edge strings on the outside. So just quickly, if you do a road design with different changes in crossfall across your road, then you should use the tin option to do the middle pavement and then either do the edge strings or the MTF on the outside. So you've got that combination to be able to do the pavements. And again, they all update. You update your profile and run door from there. And you can do all sorts of things. Paul's going to go into the snippet things now. But again, you've got access to your styles and that sort of stuff. And you've got these sorts of things. You know, being able to do those sorts of construction things nowadays and all the edge trimmers that we've got, we haven't really come across too many that we can't do. Yeah, sorry about it. It was pretty quick, but that gives you a general overview of what the pavement manager. So there's lots of videos as well. So I'm going to switch over to Paul.
Yeah, the red button.
The red button. Don't touch the red button. So Paul's going to go on with the snippets and the attribute information. So I showed you those attributes quickly. What can we do with them now in BIM?
All right, so they let me out of the survey room to come into here. So usually I live tucked away down the survey room, but Pete let me come out and play. So yeah, there's a few things that I just kind of wanted to show is mainly about attributing, and as Lee said, they've just exploded in the last 2 or 3 years. Everybody's decided that they want attributes. 12D's had them for a long time. I'm going to be doing a little bit of a talk about the attribute manipulator a bit later on, but I'll also quickly give you a quick rundown in here. But one of the other options that we've done is the ability to be able to create your own attributes and set up custom lists of attributes. So it's under utilities, attributes, and then this one here called global attributes. So you can set up styles. Once again, we're using those styles. So in here in the editor, I've got a few ones made up. So I've got some for rectangular pits. So if I click on that, so here you can say the default, the attribute type. So you've got the integer real choice, and whether you want this option to be, if you want this field to be optional or mandatory. And then you get the display name, what's going to be on the panel, and then the attribute name that's actually going to be produced. And then you can also give it a path name so that it'll be in a folder structure in your attributes. So I'm going to put them out to a folder called KML. And you can also set the tooltip. You know how when you hover over, you get a little tooltip, so you can set up your own little tooltip in there. For the choice lists, you can click on to the field here, and then you can add whatever material you like to the choice list in there. So you can make up your own lists, and you can also, so these things can set project attributes, attribute control bar attributes, which I'll show you those, model, tin, string, segment and vertex. That also work for pit and pipe as well, so it'll set pit and pipe attributes. So you can set whatever attributes you want. Some of you guys will use the drainage network editor to set attributes, but if you don't want a hassle of messing around with a drainage.4D, you can just use this thing here to set whatever attributes you want. Or you may get the network from someone else and you don't want to rerun the network. So yeah, you can make up your own new groups. You just click new group and create a new group, and you'll fill in the fields that you want. Okay, so I'll just hit finish there. Okay, so back on to the panel. So when I go to create a rectangular pit, now I don't know if you've used this thing much. It came out in version 11, so it's the attribute control bar. So whatever attributes are in here, when you create a string, will automatically get those attributes. So if I want to create a point that is going to represent, let me just get my data back. I think I've got some here called stormwater pits. Okay, so if I want to create another stormwater pit, and I just because I'm a surveyor, I use points. So I'm going to just create a point here. But before I actually create the point, I can fill out this attribute control bar. So here, instead of selecting string, I say attribute control bar, hit process, and I can fill out the length of the pit, 900. Oop. And then you can fill out the depth of the pit. I've made all these mandatory, so I'm going to have to pick something. Okay, so then I just hit process, and you can see up in the attribute control bar, it's now filled out all of those attributes. So whatever I now create will have those attributes. Oop, I put it onto the fence model. Same as. Yeah, so now I can go along and create those attributes. I'll show you a little bit later on. With those attributes, we can build pits from those strings as well, which I'll show you a bit later on. Also, if you've filled out an attribute on this panel and you decide I want to change the length of this one, I can change it from attribute control bar here to string. And when I hit process, the panel's empty. But if I use single string pick and pick and accept the pit, it'll fill out all of the fields with what was on the attributes on there. So I can just decide I'm going to make that one steel and change it. Or I can then globally pick the whole model and change the whole model as well. So you can really put a lot of attributes on things really quick. And if there's a material that's not in your list, you're like, oh, it's not one of those, you can just quickly come back into here and go into your material here, your choice, and then add in another material, and then it's write it away. And then when you come back, you should have that as a material, whichever one I put that in. I must have put in this top one. So there's the extra material. So you can easily add things to your list there. Thanks, Phil. So it does make life really easy to be able to add stuff on the fly. Some of the other things now with all this BIM, so kind of get into the BIM stuff, is Lee was mentioning about having, I'll just bring up the panel so you can see what I'm actually talking about. So just under the BIM export, IFC Express Writer. The fields are already filled out here with some defaults. So this element type path, so you can specify whether something's going to be a door, a wall, a fence, a pit, a pipe, whatever. Okay, so that is this IFC element type. And I've made some up here called IFC element type. So hit process, and then I can pick from my list here. Here's some ones that I just got off the internet. I don't know what half of them are, hopefully you know. So there's footing, furnishings, plates. Okay, so if I pick this one here, I'll say the pavement's going to be a slab. So if I pick the pavement model, why can't I pick the pavement? Oh, that's a tin. Good work, thanks. All right, so let's go find some pavement, pick some pavement, and then I say that that's going to be a slab. Okay, so now I've specified that. So now when I write out the data in the IFC, it'll know that that's a slab. Or if I select onto the pit, I've already filled this one out before, so it knows that that's an IFC distribution chamber element. Okay, so a pit. So I can change that to what if you want? No.
No.
Apparently not. Not in my language. All right, and I've got these I've made these things up, these little trees. I've decided that we're going to now start doing IFC trees. There's some fences here, so I might just quickly put some, tell that this thing's a fence. So I picked that BIM fences, and I'm going to say it's an IFC railing. I worked that one out the other night. Process. Okay, so now when I write out this data, let's bring that up. So BIM export IFC. I'll just pick everything in the view. Now when you write out the IFC here, some packages don't seem to be able to handle the large coordinates that we're able to handle inside 12D. So you can pick an origin point. Usually it's best to specify that at the start of the job and just keep that one origin point. But I'm just going to pick some point here and say that's my origin point. Then that will truncate the coordinates down so it'll be a lot smaller in the IFC file as well. Okay, so I'm saying I'm going to use this path. So on my string, if I F8 is our shortcut key for attributes, I should have this thing here called IFC element type. And there it is, the IFC slab. So when I write this out, write that out. And I've already got Celebri open here because it takes a little while to open. So I'm just going to refresh it by opening here. Anybody think it was doing something really amazing? Oh, yeah, it is doing something really amazing. All right, let me try again. I'll just shut the thing down. I'll wait for it to open.
Tells about new sun.
Yeah. Oh, the new son? He's at home asleep.
Oh, good.
Is it going to open? Oh, we're on the way. Waiting. You thought 12D took a long time to open up. Opening BIM. Okay, so here we go. And when I pick onto it here, I've got my pavement, and you can see here, that one I must have picked is an object. So if I pick down here, it's got a slab, yep. It might have been on a different model. That's a slab, and yeah, then the pit is a distribution chamber. And then the other one here is your fence, and it says it's a railing. So they're all of the things. And the good thing about it is we were out just putting everything as a generic type item. I can't remember what they call it. But now you can see here, you can see the distribution chambers. So it's like nearly like a model tree in itself. So you can see all of the distribution chambers, and then the railings. You can go all of the railings and whatnot. So that's that. Now the other thing is, when you want to use some of the other attributes inside 12D and the P sets that Lee was talking about, that's when you can use the attribute manipulator to grab some of the specific attributes you've got, like the pavement attributes, and put them onto the data. So I'll just show you that. It's under Utilities, Attributes, created an attribute manipulator file. So I've got this one here called BIM. I'll read that. Ooh, the read button. So I will just start from scratch actually, just to give you a new one. So create. So if I want to create a new one, I can select the plus button here. And instead of having to type these things in, you can hit this U button, the yellow U, attribute to use. I can pick a string, and then I can go pick what I want off the list, excuse me, and then hit set, and then it will populate all of these rules here. Okay, so this is the attribute it's going to use, and then what I can do is pick the attribute that I want to modify. So I want to put it to an attribute, and so I'm going to put it to the same name, but I'm going to put under a folder called BIM, Pavement Details. Pete said, don't type, you're a terrible typer. He's probably right. Yeah, I did. See, that's why I said don't type. Okay, so pavement details, and then the actual attribute name. So BIM, pavement details, layer description. So that's all I do. I just go through each one of those rules and do that. Now, I won't torture you with that. I'll just read it in so I can show you what I've done. And you can see here I've got BIM, pavement details, things like that. The other one that kind of got asked was for these tri-mesh structures and things like that, is they wanted some type of location on chainage so you could work out where they were. So just under the attributes option here, there's one that says tri-mesh centerline chainage attributes. So you pick your model of tri-mesh. So pick my pits here. And then my center line. Hopefully I've got one here somewhere. Yep. And I just pick my center line, and then you can set a maximum offset, so it'll only search in a certain corridor. And you can also prefix the attribute name with the string name. So I'll just turn that off and hit process. Oop. I'll just pick the whole view. And then it will go put a location attribute on every tri-mesh. So if I have a look at this pretty little tree that I made. So it'll have a location that says the centerline chainage, the lowest chainage, the highest, the centroid, and the offset, then the XYZ. So I want to put that out to BIM as well, so that when they pick on it, they get all that type of information. Okay, so I've got that in my BIM. So all I need to do is when I write this file out again, so BIM export IFC. I think I was doing everything in the 3D view, and pick a point. And this time I'll fill out this folder here, IFC attributes tree name. So all I do is put in there BIM, and that's my top level structure. So anything under there will then get written out to the IFC. So I'll pick my file again, write that, replace. Hopefully Celebri is going to work a little bit better. File, close, no. Maybe. Here we go. Okay, so now when I click on my pavement, I get all these extra tabs here. So I get the location tab. So it's got, sorry, that's the standard one that's inbuilt. I'm looking for this one here, location details. So it's got centerline name, blah, blah, blah. And then I've got the pavement details tab, which says the depth, the layer description, pavement, all the reference styles that we used. So anything that I get put under there will go into there as well. And I think I did some for the pit as well. So if I pick on the pit and go, I actually put it under a P set distribution. And so I've got all of the details in there about the P set, the soffit level and wall material. So all of that stuff comes across into the IFC file. Okay, so the other thing is, so we use the same type of scenario with when you write out to a KML file as well. So if I write out data output to KML, now I'm going to make sure that I don't pick anything that has, I'll use this view. I'll just pick my projection. I'm just going to say follow Google Terrain and see how this is saying the KML attribute folder name. So instead of BIM, I'm looking for a folder name called KML. Well, I won't pick that one, that's my good one. I'll just put data. And I'll open that. Excuse me, it's just fighting off something. Yeah, I know. All right, so now when I zoom in on here, sorry, excuse me. Yeah, so when I pick onto the pit, good idea, Pete. Sorry. So when you pick onto the options in the KML, you'll also you'll get the attributes similar to what we had in the other file in the IFC. So the other thing that we're getting asked a lot now is people want to be able to read KML data back in to 12D. They might draw something, or someone might do some type of area and they want to be able to read the data back in. So we did do a KML importer. So that's under data input, KML. And it does KML or KMZ. And I pick this Russell Street. And I'll put it onto a model. KML Russell. And clean the model just beforehand. And you can also apply a map file as well. So it'll, you can map the data as it's coming in. Oh, not that one. I want, yeah, that's it. Okay, so it's going to prefix any of the map file models and then put it on a model called KML Russell. Okay, so I'll read that. You don't need a projection. I will bring it in at Latlon. But good thing you asked. You've helped me there, Phil, because I actually do want to pick a projection. And you can also put your attributes that were... Sorry. I might just pinch some water. Sorry. That's better. Okay, so I'll just read that in. Okay, and hopefully, if I turn on KML, you should get your data back in that you had. Because I applied the map file, I got little symbols on all of these things here. And one thing didn't work, just because of my slackness. Well prepared. So I'll clean the model beforehand and try again. Still didn't work. That's great. It is meant to bring in the imagery from KML as well that you might have stored in the KMZ. So it should bring in that. I've messed that one up. That's why they say not to do live demos.
I've seen it.
Yeah, Pete's seen it. Just trust him. And then any attributes that may have been on there as well should have also been brought back in as well. Should be these. No, they should at string level. Yeah. I'm not sure I picked the right point there. So yeah, that's the KML reader that can come in handy for doing a lot of that type of stuff. What time is this thing? Is it meant to be 3:45? Sorry, yeah, 3:45.
I think so, yeah.
Well, because we started a bit late. So it's probably, I think they've covered, string Inquire, that's the other one as well.
Yeah.
I knew there was an, I'm like forgetting something. So I've got all of these attributes here now. And instead of having to hit F8 all the time and then pick onto the, and then pick on it and then get my list of attributes and things like that, with V12 came out, you could create your own super Inquire, and you can have displayed whatever you want in the super Inquire. So say for example, I want these location attributes, so I don't have to keep going back in all the time and hit F8 to find out these attributes. So I can just highlight the attributes that I want, copy those, and then under strings, utilities, edit Inquire styles. So at the moment, I don't have any in my working folder or in my user. So I might do one in my user. So I hit create. The easiest thing to do for you guys, and for me too, is to go into setups and find one of our existing ones. So say this 12D Inquire, highlight that, hit the copy button, and come up into the working folder ones, highlight styles, and hit paste. Okay, so then I'm going to give this a different name. Let's just call it BIM, capital locks. Okay, so then I come down to the, I'll just hit right there. Now sometimes the way the editor kind of works, it can be a little bit annoying, so I just tend to shut it down with that. Ben, you can fix that later on. So if I go to strings, utilities, edit Inquire styles, and then hit edit, it's actually a lot nicer to use now. So if I come down to attributes so this combined one, and go to, super. General. Oh, super. What happened to our things? We might have put them under here, try mesh. Did somebody, I'll do another one. So I'll just create another one here. And I'll call the group BIM. And then you can say, what do you want to match? So I'm going to say here, a string attribute. So if I come down, there's segment, try mesh, going fast. Did you find it? Good work. String attribute. Oh, look here. There's a lot there. Okay. So however many I need here. All right, and then I'll just copy these again. And paste that into there. Now it's got to be the full path. So I need location. This is where, sorry about this. It may be faster to do it like this. And then just paste them into here. There you go. And then the name is what you want displayed on the panel. So you can have the same thing, or you can have it display it differently to what's in here. You might not want the underscores. So if I delete those, write that away, finish. You shouldn't have to do a restart, I don't think. Sometimes you do. Let me just see if we can go into our settings here. Settings, yep. There's BIM. So I can set that as my default there and say use Super Inquire. So I just hit set. And now I should be able to, when I do an Inquire, pick on there. And you can see the BIM group down the bottom. So you can set up your own Inquire style to say whatever you want. And the great thing is, like Lee said, is you can use this copy to clipboard. And you can pick on that. Pick this. It's copied to clipboard straight away. And if I go into my CAD leader, information leader, and I just want to do a leader off here, I'll just go again, CAD leader, information leader, and go T for text, S for style, try and choose something that looks half decent. CAD leader, text, sorry.
He's crook, come on.
Yeah, give me a break. All right. And then I can paste that in there. Oh my goodness. Back to you, pick this. This is not, why is this not? This is going to be horrific. It was working a lot better than this the other day, but now they've done the cursor snap on me as well. It's got the cursor snap information and put it into the CAD leader. One more go, then we're going to give up. Text. It is like watching Alan. Don't tell him I said that. Phil said that. This is really quick. Yeah. So yeah, you can get all the information from the clipboard. Yep, in CAD. So yeah, it's a bigger audience than in the survey room. But if do you take questions in here?
Oh, no, we'll see you later. We go.
It's afternoon tea. Afternoon tea.
Afternoon tea.
Any questions you can ask outside of the thing?